Hello everyone, and welcome back to the PuddyMod YouTube channel. And on the channel today we have, as promised from the last video, a 462 S2000 differential build. This build today is right now we're getting it started. I got the cover off the core rear end, and you can see this thing is really jacked up. There's a tooth sitting on top of the bearing cap. I didn't set it there. It actually was there when I took the cover off. It's kind of crazy. And you can see inside it is really jacked up. And you can see the teeth sitting there on the side, so it doesn't really turn because it's locked. The LSD is completely locked. It's jacked up too. So this entire internal mechanism here, everything we got, all the gears, LSD, everything, it's all going into the scrap iron for recycling. And we're going to be putting in a new Osgiken tuned by Shaftworks. And there's they got their little logo gimmick right there. And then we got the set of 462s that were sent in by the client. And these are a fairly rare gear set. And when I say that, I think this is the second set in as much as 20 years that I have actually installed or had my hands on. So I would say they're fairly rare. You see the inside of that cover looks pretty yucky. But yeah, it's not a bad core. It's actually in pretty good shape, even though it looks terrible right now. But we'll do a little bit of magic, make this thing look amazing when we're finished. And stay tuned. And thanks for tuning in. I'm getting ready to take the tabs off of this thing, to hold that retain these locking rings. And I wanted to share something with you guys. It's not something you see all the time, but I have seen it probably a couple dozen times. And but I've never really shared it with you. And it's this. Look how that tab, that locking tab, is set on that rear end. This is from the factory. I started taking it off. That's why you see some of that oil missing off the top of this tab, because I was actually getting ready to take it off, and I said, wait a minute, I need to stop here for a minute and let you guys see this kind of thing. It is way off to the side here, but you can tell this is where the factory had set it, because if you look here, let me turn the light off because it's probably dousing it too much. You can see the paint line is still there to show where that adjuster ring was set to the bearing cap, and then they mark it to show that it's been done. And you can see that it had never moved, but yet that tab is all the way over to the right there. And I thought that was kind of interesting to show you guys. On this side, it's pretty much dead even, as it should be. It's off a little bit, but that's just to get it in place. But they don't bother really keying these things in perfectly. And I think that's kind of why sometimes you'll see this thing jump around and move. It's rare. Some other people that do this kind of work say that it's a chronic issue of this adjuster coming out of alignment, but it's not. It's pretty rare that it happens. I've had it happen a few times, yes, over the years that I've seen it, but there's other catastrophic issues that are going on in the rear end that this wasn't the first line of fail. It probably was maybe third in line, because the cap had actually broke, or, stretched. The bearing cap bolts had stretched, and it caused that adjuster to start coming out of alignment where it was, out of its original factory setting. But like I said, it's pretty rare. You don't have to stud out a rear end. It's kind of silly, really. And just using an upgraded bearing cap bolt is all you really need. And once those bearing cap bolts are in place and that adjuster ring is set, it locks that cap in tight as a tick. It's not going anywhere. And when it does, it's usually due to an alignment fail between the ring and the pinion. And that's not because of those adjusters coming out, but sometimes this case can be stretched and causing the alignment to come out of sorts because of excessive amount of power being ran through the input flange from the drive shaft from the car. Harsh downshifts without a proper rev match will absolutely obliterate one of these cases. They explode from the outside in, not from the inside out. So yeah, just something I thought would be kind of neat to share with you guys. It's something you don't see all the time, but when you do, it's pretty neat. All right, let me get it apart. All right, welcome back, and I have the cleanup all finished and wanted to share that with you guys. This is our assembly for that 462 build, and we'll start with the cover. What I did with this cover is I cleaned it, and I didn't put any paint on it or anything like that. I didn't do a fresh new finish. Added the stickers too, because I think they look cool, and you know, stickers are fun, yeah, and all that good stuff. So we got a little bit of sticker action on both sides, and it cleaned up really, really nice. Looks really great. It's also drilled for safety wire. So, you know, with this having an Osgiken LSD, I'm sure this rear end's probably going to see some track use. So having that cover drilled for safety wire is a good thing. So we got that going on. It looks really good. It's clean, super nice, no issues, fresh. So we're kind of making this rear end look, you know, stock from the exterior appearance, other than the stickers. There's nothing really to see here. It's basically the theme of the setup. Got the PuddyMod solid steel sleeve sitting here, ready to go. This is our client provided 462 that he sourced from out of the country, which is in nice shape. It doesn't show very much wear at all, which is really great. We have our Honda install parts. I only use Honda stuff, you know, Honda bearings, seals, things like that. Factory is always best. The aftermarket, not so much. I've talked about that in past videos. Tapers are not the same. Rollers are, you know, not the same amount of rollers involved on these bearings, and this can lead to issues. You know, this is a high revving car, so you want what the factory designed this rear end to handle, and straying from that, especially, you know, with these high RPMs, is not a good idea. And there's our PuddyMod car gimmick, and of course more stickers. This Osgiken LSD has been tuned by Shaftworks. That's a company I recommend, mainly because I've driven a vehicle or two that had their Giken tuning done, and I was really happy with the way that Giken performed, mainly on the street, because on the track, that's a real good thing. That's what most people buy these things for. But a lot of guys drive these, and gals as well, drive these cars on the street, and you want that LSD not to, you know, sound like you have a broken car. And that's something I liked about how these Shaftworks guys do it. The rear, these LSDs seem to stay fairly quiet in operation on the street, and that's a nice thing, you know. Anyway, here's our restored case. Looks great, in my opinion. I think most everybody would say the same, as it looks just like it would have looked when it came down the assembly line at Honda. We still have all of our, you know, the part numbers and serial numbers. Our factory assembly line markings are on it. There is no paint on this. This is just the factory coating that's on here that I have restored. So this rear is as it was when it was brand new. Other than I did clear coat it just to keep that finish from degrading that quickly. So this thing should look good for, you know, many years. And there's our input flange. Really came out super nice. Looks great. Has that factory finish to it as well. And but everything looks super good, and we're going to get ready to get the assembly started. We're going to get our ring gear on the LSD, get things balanced out there, get our bearings pressed on there. I put the bearings already into our bearing caps, and hardware's here, and our adjuster rings, and everything's ready to go. So let's get started. can see that bearing is lubricated. We don't want to put a dry bearing on a race. That would be not smart. We give it a little pop into place and then press. Check our rollers, make sure we're good. And we are good. All right, I have it set up in here now. Worked on this balance for about an hour and a half, and this was the best I could do. And it's about 1.5 thousandths roughly, maybe slightly less, which is still well within factory specs, so it's good. It's going to be fine. I like to get it into 1,000 range, but this was the best I could do, so that's what I'm going to take. Yeah, not too bad. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take it apart and start putting the pinion in, and I'm not going to have the sleeve on here yet. We're just going to set up the pinion and see what we have for pattern, and if I have to adjust that shim on there. We're all set up to go. We have oil on the bearing, our flanges all lubricated, and we're getting ready to set that pinion inside and do our first mock-up. All right, put the nut on. It's a used nut and washer, and I always check with an inch-pound wand. I got the feel for it too, but to share in the video, I put the inch-pound wand on there, and I got about 10 inch-pounds of load on there, which is just plenty enough to set it up for mock-up, and that's within factory spec there. And 10 inch-pounds is pretty easy to spin, so I can get a good spin on it and listen to things besides checking backlash to make sure everything looks and you know, turns properly, and it's going to be a nice quiet setup. All right, let me go ahead and get it set up in the vise and put the LSD and ring gear in and get things set up for the backlash. All right, I have it. Oh, I just hit the air line. All right, I got it set at 3 thousandths right now, and it is consistent around the gear, which is very nice. I'm going to go ahead and die up these gears and see what our pattern looks like. I use a white dye when I do this. There's a couple reasons for that. Really, the main reason is that I am, for the most part, colorblind. I don't see color very well. It's so like using like the blue stuff or the yellow stuff that they have in a regular gear paste, I can't see it. I can't see it, especially the blue. I can't see the blue contrast against the gear. It kind of just blends together on me. But white, it's white. You can't miss white. So that's why I do them in white. Okay, look at that. That is a dynamite pattern. That looks really, really good. Right out of the cannon right there, first shot. Beautiful. All right, let's get it apart, start setting up the PuddyMod solid steel sleeve. All right, we have it set up here, and I have about 5 thousandths in and out play. So I'm going to have to take the sleeve out, put it back in the lathe, take probably, I'm going to say at least 5 thousandths, maybe 6 thousandths off of it, and then put it back in and see where we're at that point. So let me get it apart and check back in with me in a second. All right, guys, we're back, and I'm set up for a final assembly on this thing now. Ended up taking 7 thousandths off the sleeve and to get the perfect fitment that I was looking for. Came out very nice, really, really good. And got our new nut, washer. Everything's lubricated once again. Everything's been cleaned once again to do final assembly. This is the turning torque. Everything's set up really nice. Oh, hello, shop kitty. All right, that's very nice. You know, when we're doing this part, you have to stay off the bench. You're allowed up here when we're all finished. Come on, buddy. Oh my God, you get so heavy. Kitty, shop kitty, shop kitty. Oh, what a good baby. All right, go down there. I'll get you some food. Hold on. We're back here. Let's do that one more time just in case it wasn't caught. Nice. Right on the money. Perfect. Torque goo. Yeah. All right, have the carrier ring gear in place. Everything's locked in. set the bearing cap bolts, torqued everything into place, and this is our backlash. And that is consistent around the gear. It's like 3 thousandths to like 3.2 thousandths consistent around the gear. Very, very nice. Beautiful pattern. Job, kitty. Everything looks really good. All right, it's time to put the cover on it. That's how it is. It's, like I said, it's very nice, quiet, smooth. It's not going to have any gear whine or anything like that, I don't suspect. It should be really, really good. All right, let me get the cover on. All right, before I seal it up, one last look. And you can see how that Honda Bond seal is put on there. Give you an idea how much to use. A little goes a long way. You don't want to glob it on. You just want a nice skim coat like you see here. And that will seal that rear end just fine, and you won't have to worry about contaminating the inside of that rear with silicone. You see that's all nice and clean. It's ready to go. Looks great. Really very nice. Really happy the way that came out. I'm replacing the hardware from the original hardware because it was in pretty rough shape. So I'm going to go ahead and put new hardware in, and so it'll look really nice when it's finished, and no rust issues or anything like the other stuff had. All right, I have the cover in place. Looks good. Nice and clean. Clean seal area. Now I'm working on the stub axles. I got one prepped out pretty good. Looks decent. Not bad. The other one, it definitely needs a lot more work. So I'm going to continue on with that, and when I am finished, I'll go ahead and get the seals in. I'll put these stub axles in and end the video. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. It's fun. It's you know, they're not very informative videos necessarily. They're mainly to kind of show the person, you know, the client, that, you know, how his differential was put together. And when I find one that's kind of interesting, I put it up here on this YouTube channel. And, you know, this one being a 462 and an Osgiken LSD was definitely an interesting build. So that's why it's on here. And thanks for watching. And let me get this finished up, and we'll finish up the video. All right, got the axle shafts all cleaned up pretty nice. They look good. Get ready to do the insert here. There it goes. That's one. And there's a two. Let's find that line up there. A little lower, I think. Let's see. One more down. Too low. There we go. Not that it really matters, but you know, it's that OCD thing. Bad angle. Nice. Very nice. All right. Let's get it on the bench. There she is, all finished up. Got those stickers, look really cool on it. Factory markings. You got your torque mark there, torque goo, as I call it. Factory finish on the case. Just spin it around, look at the back. Nice and clean, looks great. Decals on both sides. Factory finish on the rear cover. So it really has a really clean, natural, original look to it. That's a 462 Osgiken rear with stage 2 upgrades. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. See ya.